Welcome to the deep dive. We're kicking things off today by immersing ourselves in the very first meeting of the Augusta Charter Review Committee.
Yeah, we've got the transcript here from the video uploaded on the Augusta government's YouTube channel.
Right. And while we don't have the exact upload date, we know the meeting itself happened back in April 2025. They mentioned hoping for the next one sometime this May.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that you're getting a front row seat, basically, to the very start of this whole thing.
Exactly.
This process could genuinely reshape how Augusta works.
Yeah.
You know, it's not looking back at something finished, it's watching the first steps.
You're right there as they figure things out, meet the key players, hear the big questions they're starting with as they, well, dig into Augusta's charter.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is really to pull out the key stuff. Who's involved, what are their jobs likely to be, and what's the basic plan look like for this pretty significant task? Okay, let's unpack it.
So the meeting starts with introductions, naturally. And what jumps out right away is just the sheer range of people there, different backgrounds, different areas of expertise.
Yeah, it's quite a list.
We heard from Dr. Lester McCorn, who's the president of Paine College, Angela Bakis, the founder of Resource Augusta, Marcy Wilhelm, representing District 3. She's got an aviation background.
Right.
It really suggests, a wide mix of viewpoints will be feeding into this review. That could lead to, well, stronger recommendations maybe than if everyone came from the same field.
It's a really impressive group, and they made a point of mentioning the representation from different districts across Augusta. We're talking retired firefighters, educators, retired military personnel. It really gives you the sense that they're aiming for this to be, a community effort.
Absolutely. And leading the charge, so to speak, from the University of Georgia's Institute of Government is Rex Fazer.
Okay.
What's interesting about him is his background. He's got deep experience in local government finance, HR, even things like redistricting out in Utah.
Oh, wow.
And apparently he had quite a bit of success with public engagement there. Plus the fact she actually lives in Georgia now, bought a house in Augusta. That adds a personal stake,
Yeah, it does. It sounds like he's not just flying in as a consultant. He's actually part of the community now.
Right. And working with him is Lori Bell, also from the Institute.
Yeah.
She's their go-to expert on charter issues.
Okay.
25 plus years in state and local government legal departments. That's a serious amount of legal and procedural know-how she brings.
Definitely. You need that kind of expertise.
And then there's the team working behind the scenes, which is always crucial. You've got research staff, Macy Lane Smith and Bill Tolman, recent grads actually from Georgia State and UGA. They'll be doing a lot of the detailed digging.
Right.
Clerk Bonner and Natasha from the clerk's office are handling logistics, super important. Jeff's on tech, making sure it's all live streamed and available online.
Good.
And can't forget Jim Plunkett, the interim city attorney. He's acting as the committee's legal counsel. It really is a whole team effort.
It absolutely takes that kind of coordination. So the big question then is, why now? Why do this charter review at this point?
Well, Rex Fazer brought that up. Augusta's current government structure, it's over 20 years old now. It dates back to the 1996 consolidation.
Right.
And the fundamental question they're asking is, basically, does that structure still work? Does it serve the citizens of Augusta effectively here in 2025 and looking ahead?
Makes sense. Things change.
Exactly. And Macy Lane Smith provided some really good historical context on that 1996 consolidation. Augusta and Richmond County came together, but importantly, Hephzibah and Blythe were excluded.
Okay.
That made Augusta one of only 8 consolidated governments in Georgia.
Right.
And she made a key point. Once you consolidate like that, other cities can't join later. It's a done deal. Structurally.
Right. It's a fundamental change. And then she explained, what exactly is a charter? For those of us maybe not deep in municipal government daily.
Yeah, it's good to clarify.
She explained it's like a constitution, but for a city. It sets up the basic structure. City boundaries, legal powers, how the legislative body works, how often they meet, the rules for meetings, all that foundational stuff.
And the scope is just huge when you think about it. It's not just who's in charge.
No.
It details administrative stuff, how the courts are organized, election rules, how you fill vacancies, how staff are removed, even taxes and budgeting.
Wow.
And crucially, as Macy pointed out, it all has to fit within state and federal laws.
Yeah,
You can't just make up anything.
So it's really the operating manual for the city.
Okay.
Then Lori Bell kind of laid out the actual process for this review.
Right. The Augusta Commission appointed this committee. Their job is to analyze the current charter, talk about changes, vote on proposed changes.
Okay.
If they agree on proposals, those go to the commission for their vote. And then, if approved there, it ultimately has to be ratified by the Georgia General Assembly.
So multiple layers of approval needed. It's not just the committee deciding everything?
Not at all. And Lori spelled out the Institute's role in all this. They're the facilitators, the guides.
Right.
They organize meetings, do research, including looking at how other similar places operate, which is smart.
Yeah, comparative analysis.
Exactly. They coordinate the project, create what's called a red line version of the charter.
Oh, yeah, where you can see the changes highlighted.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Shows exactly what's different from the original text. They'll keep a public list of proposed changes on the website and then prepare a big final report for the commission and the legislature. Their main job is giving the committee the info they need to make good decisions.
So they provide the structure and the expertise, and then Lori talked about the committee's specific jobs, which sound pretty extensive.
They are. A deep dive into the current charter and the original 1996 Consolidation Act. Looking for outdated stuff, conflicts, areas that could just work better, be more efficient.
Okay.
Based on that, they recommend deletions, additions, amendments. And this is key. They have to actively get public input. At least 2 public hearings are expected.
That seems really important. It's not just happening behind closed doors.
Absolutely. It underscores that this is meant to reflect what the community actually wants and needs.
Okay, so after setting all that groundwork, the meeting shifted gears a bit. They started talking about initial organizing stuff, like bylaws.
Right. Lori Bell kicked that off, saying, look, we need to elect officers, a chairperson, vice chair, secretary, the leadership team to guide the work.
Makes sense. You need someone in charge.
Then Jim Plunkett presented the proposed bylaws. He stressed that these rules are based directly on the resolution the commission already passed to create this committee.
So they're working within an existing framework.
Exactly. He walked them through the key articles, starting with the purpose, making sure the charter represents Augusta, but also, importantly, not assuming changes have to happen. Maybe the current one is mostly fine.
Right, it's a review, not necessarily a rewrite mandate.
Precisely. Then they got into the officer roles. The chair presides, helps set agendas with the Institute, represents the committee, can form subcommittees. Sounds like potentially a big-time commitment.
Yeah, that sounds like a key role.
The vice chair steps in if the chair's out. The secretary handles agendas, minutes, working with the clerk, kind of the technical secretary role.
And the clerk herself, Miss Bonner, she's the official record keeper, takes role, makes sure everything's public.
Which leads right into Article 4, public meetings.
Yeah.
Jim Plunkett really hammered this home. This committee is a public body.
Okay.
All meetings, all communications, emails, maybe even texts about committee business are subject to open records requests. Transparency is paramount. No secret meetings of a quorum, either for the full committee or subcommittees.
That's a big deal. They have to be careful about how they communicate, even informally. It sounds like finding that balance between getting to know each other and following the rules could be tricky, especially early on.
It's definitely a tightrope walk. They then talked about citizen participation. The chair can allow public comment during or after meetings, and definitely at those public hearings.
Good.
Meeting locations. Usually the room they were in, but maybe other spots like the Beasley Room or out in Diamond Lakes or Warren Road for public hearings, coordinated with the clerk.
Okay, so they have options to make it accessible.
Then, meeting notices. They even chatted briefly about the best day for regular meetings. Thursdays looked possible, since Tuesdays were booked in their usual room. Special meetings need proper notice and a stated purpose. The committee can call those themselves too.
Right. What about the agenda? Is it set in stone?
No, they went over a standard order, call to order, roll call, minutes, presentations, reports, old business, new business, public comment. But they noted it can be changed if needed.
Flexible.
And confirmed again. Meetings live streamed, recorded, minutes kept. All public record.
Good. Article 5. Quorum. How many people do they need?
7. Out of the 11 members, they need 7 present to have an official meeting, and 7 yes votes to pass anything.
7 votes. Okay.
Subcommittees need a majority of their members. And importantly, no proxy voting. You have to be there.
Physically present. Got it. What about missing meetings?
That came up next. The bylaws suggest missing more than 3 consecutive regular meetings without a good reason could lead to removal.
Okay.
And the timeline expectation is they'll work until March 2026, though they'd like to finish sooner, maybe before December 2025.
Ambitious.
Potentially. They also touched on maybe using subcommittees for efficiency and confirmed they'll use Robert's Rules of Order, same as the County Commission. And the bylaws themselves can be amended later if needed.
And Jim Plunkett wrapped that part up by reiterating these bylaws come straight from the Commission's resolution and the agreement with the Institute.
Yeah, reinforcing that they're operating within that defined structure.
Okay, so after that rundown of the proposed rules, the committee members started jumping in with questions, right?
They did. It got pretty interactive. Someone asked, okay, if someone misses too many meetings, how are they replaced? And the answer was the appointing authority, like the mayor, for example, would be notified.
Makes sense.
Another asked if the main commission can change what this committee proposes. And yes, they can, since the committee reports to them. But the expectation is they'd probably talk it over first if it's a big change.
Right. That difference in voting thresholds is interesting, though. 7 votes needed here, but the commission usually needs 6. Could that cause issues?
It certainly could lead to some interesting dynamics down the road, yeah. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Someone has a really practical question. Can individual members talk to the public about this?
Good question. The answer was basically, yes, you can share your own views individually, but the committee's official work and discussions have to happen in public meetings. Transparency.
That's a critical line to walk. Maintain transparency for the group's work.
Then, a few members brought up feeling a bit awkward about voting for officers right away at the first meeting. Like, they don't know each other yet.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that was acknowledged as totally fair.
Yeah.
No rule says they had to vote immediately.
Okay. What else came up?
Could they stream from smaller rooms if needed? Yes. Tech options exist. Who appoints a replacement? The original commissioner who made the appointment.
Okay. That clears that up.
And that voting threshold difference came up again. Why 7 for the committee when the commission uses 6? It was clarified that the state law enabling this specific committee mandated 7 votes.
Ah, so it's set by the enabling legislation. Got it.
Someone suggested maybe meeting informally outside meetings just to get acquainted.
Uh-oh. Open meetings alarm bell.
Exactly. Immediate caution flags went up. Fine for social chat, but if a quorum is there, or if they start talking charter business, that's a no-go under open meetings laws.
Okay.
Again, that balancing act.
Right. Tricky. Any talk about remote participation? Like Zoom?
Yeah, it was raised. It's something they could explore for certain situations, but the strong preference is for everyone to be there in person for the discussions.
Makes sense for collaboration.
Someone asked the Institute for ideas on how members could get to know each other safely within the rules. The advice was basically, social settings are fine, just don't talk shop about the charter review.
Okay. Sensible advice.
And a really strong warning about social media. Don't post about committee business online.
Why is that? Open records again?
Partly open records, those posts could become public record, but also just avoiding messy online debates or interactions related to their official work. Just keep it offline.
Good point in this day and age. What about getting started without a chair? Any talk of a temporary one?
Briefly, someone asked about maybe an unofficial chair for the first meeting or two, but that's not really standard practice. They need a formal chair to actually move forward. The idea of electing someone temporarily was floated, but again, seemed less than ideal. You really need that stable leadership to guide the work plan for tackling the charter itself.
Yeah, makes sense. How did they try to resolve the officer election issue then?
Well, someone suggested maybe just an informal show of hands, like who's interested, or even who was definitely not interested in being chair.
Huh, okay, reverse psychology.
Kind of. And the idea came up to maybe just stay a few minutes after the meeting, adjourned for an informal chat about who might be interested, which is okay as long as it's just expressing interest, not debating or deciding.
Okay. So trying to find ways to move forward without a formal vote yet. What about the timeline? Did that get discussed more?
Yeah, confirmed again. Goal is March 2026. Hope is maybe December 2025 finish. But then the concern popped up, if we delay picking officers until the next meeting in May, doesn't that slow us down?
Good point.
Which led someone to suggest, hey, can we meet sooner than May? Maybe May 1st. But then scheduling conflicts immediately arose for late April.
Of course. Scheduling 11 busy people.
Always the challenge. So they landed on a practical solution. Let's take a short break right now. Let the Institute folks and the clerk huddle and see if they can come back with some alternative dates for the next meeting.
Smart move.
And everyone agreed to that. Oh, and one last question popped up about that quorum. Could they change the 7-vote requirement to match the Commission's 6? But nope. Clarified again. The 7 is set by the State Enabling Act.
Okay, so that seems locked in.
Seems so.
So as this first meeting wrapped up, it feels like they covered a lot of ground, even without electing officers yet.
Definitely. We met the team, the committee members, the Institute staff, the city support. That's huge.
Yeah.
We got a clear picture of the whole review process, start to finish, all the way to the legislature.
And we saw them start to grapple with the rules, the bylaws, how they'll operate, the importance of transparency, public input. That's all critical foundational stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the path ahead, it's clearly got challenges, right? Digging into this foundational document, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and making recommendations that hopefully make things better for Augusta.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility.
But this first meeting, it also shows the opportunity they have to really shape things. And that focus on transparency right from the start, that's going to be so important for keeping public trust.
This deep dive into just the first meeting really highlights how much foundational work needs to happen first. Getting leadership sorted out, agreeing on the rules. These are essential first steps.
Totally. And the thoughtful questions people were already asking, it shows they're taking it seriously.
It does. They seem engaged right from the get-go.
So as we finish up this deep dive, maybe the question for you, the listener, is, what parts of Augusta's government, its current charter, do you think this committee absolutely needs to look at? What's most critical in your view?
That's a great question. We definitely encourage you to keep an eye on the Augusta government website. They'll post updates there about when the next meeting is actually scheduled. Sounds like that's still being figured out.
Right, stay tuned for that date. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.